And welcome back. For this one we'll be looking at Bloodsport TV. Now, terrible name, okay game. It's a cooperative team-based game. And this is an area I've always been looking for new experiences. I love this element. I love working with other people. I love playing with my friends in these games, and there have been a lot of great games to use lately. But there never seems to be enough, and you always want something new to try, so I'm always looking for a great team-based game. Now this one takes the Horde mode style of gameplay and creates an entire multiplayer experience around it. You've got multiple lanes that you're trying to defend. You constantly have waves of enemies coming down them that grow in difficulty, that grow in strength, that grow in numbers, and as a group, you're trying to defeat them. The game is very influenced by MOBA design as well. It has the same class style dynamics. You've got your healers and your damage dealers, your tanks and your support type characters that all need to work together to try and defend these lanes, defend these waves of enemies. They each have a limited skill set and a certain focus depending on the character, and there's a whole in-game upgrade system during the match that's very reminiscent of MOBAs as well. You buy items as you go, you increasingly save up gold and buy new items, upgrade them to even better items, and this keeps your character growing throughout a match, growing in more power and strength. And of course, like a MOBA, there's the same sort of stats you'll be working towards, damage, skill, speed, energy, recharge rate, and there's a whole different system of actives and passives on certain items as well. So you're building your characters like it's a MOBA in a way, and that keeps a good flow to these matches. It's a good progression to each match you have. You're constantly defeating enemies, and there's even little sort of what they call jungle areas, not really jungle, just corners, where you defeat those mobs during certain downtimes to get that little extra bit of coin. With the PvE gameplay, it seems a lot more approachable than actual MOBA too, and I really do enjoy this style of play. It's fun, it's active, it's simple but also difficult to master. It's very twitch and action based, and it's always a lot of fun to play, but just not enough to, put up with the ego-filled LOL and Dota community at the moment. So this funny PvE mix of team-based MOBA style action is really quite enjoyable. I like it, I enjoy it. And I do kind of wish more games would, come out with this style as well. There is a rather simplistic out-of-game progression element there too that helps you upgrade each of the classes over time and reward certain ongoing benefits, which is a nice touch. So even after a match is finished, you can still see your progression out of game, and it gives you something to work for. It's also good how it's that whole progression element outside of those matches that works in well with the difficulty system. Each match you can start or is started by another player is fully moddable, and the difficulty there, how difficult you want to make it, how many waves you want to make it, all those sort of things. It's a very moddable experience, which is a great touch too. Unfortunately, there's just a lot of problems in the entire experience, and just an overall feeling. And because of that, the game doesn't really grab me as strongly as other sort of team-based titles, like say Dungeon Defenders or a good bit of Diablo 3 action. I would even rate, Dead Island Epidemic higher, even though it was quite hamstrung by its, monetization. It has good elements there, but it's just not enough, soul to the experience, and not enough individuality and design to really make it stand out on its own, stand out against these other games. The combat is tight, and I enjoy the action, but it just seems far too repetitive. And I guess that comes down to the MOBA design. It is the PvP that keeps the gameplay dynamic when you have those limited skill sets, those limited characters. And then when you're in a PvE, those games that do it well need to have a lot more variability in the other game mechanics to make it that much more enjoyable. and that much more dynamic. So far, everything about Bloodsport TV is just too predictable. There's a very limited amount of characters to choose from that I really don't see anything special about, at least, not in the same way you look at characters in LoL and their skill sets, their abilities, even their personality come through into the game. It's just the skills are rather muted and boring as well. You've got, standard AoE action, standard CC or tank and spank stuff. There's nothing that unique about this that stands out that would make these characters more and more interesting and more dynamic during the gameplay. Even the enemies have so little differentiation as well. You're fighting the same stuff over and over and over again, from the smallest mobs to the biggest bosses. It's all just the same, and there's so little types of them too, until you just see the same thing, and that gets incredibly boring. Even through the course of a match, it gets completely forgettable as well. You can know beforehand what wave is going to happen and what enemies are going to be in that wave and how many, and even where they're going to come from, so it becomes a completely, I guess, far too scheduled and repetitive experience. There's no, variation there to break up that monotony of this play, and those MOBA style games do get very monotonous if not done properly. There are quite a few different maps there too, which you can choose between and set up your match with, but even these seem entirely bland and forgettable. I get the design and the aesthetic they were going for with this, Mad Max style TV experiment gone wrong sort of thing, but the whole map's just blown into this grey-brown nothingness that is so overused. It's just boring, it's just bland. You want something different, you want something new, you want something, to remember, and there's nothing about that, does it? Now, the game is a full release, it's not early access, although, these days that means basically shit all. And they are upgrading it reasonably well over the time. They've just released a new DLC with new mob types, new bosses, new maps, that sort of thing. So I do see the game improving over the long time, but I still don't see it comparing to those great cooperative team-based games out there at the moment that I'd rather pick up instead. So if you like this sort of game, I guess you could go with it. It's cheap, why not? Or you could just wait for the Humble Bundle, which I'm sure it will be in eventually. Or just, play some of those other games. Play the games you love. Peace out.